Parker Schnabel and Tony Beats are the stars of Discovery's #1 show Gold Rush, which is back for Season 9. This season will be unlike any other, featuring new miners and rivalries as the crew mines for gold. Let's take a look at a clip from the several problems that arise from Parker Schnabel's absence from the crew to the chances that these problems could prevent the team from achieving their goals for the week. Here's how Mitch Blaschke tried to avoid getting fired by Parker Schnabel. As a budding young gold mining entrepreneur, Parker Schnabel has pretty much seen it all when it comes to gold mining. However, that was most likely because he was born into a gold mining family. Already the son of a miner, this mining legacy also included his grandfather, the legendary Big John. After his grandfather took him under his wing, the only way seemed upwards for the budding young miner, whose only goal was to start his own mining company ever since he was about 16 years old. Following this, we all watched as a young man came to prominence during his 14 seasons mining for gold on the Gold Rush TV show. We've watched as he overcame challenges such as other competitors. If you can barely afford to buy a plane, you shouldn't have a plane. And if you can barely afford to buy a gold mine, you shouldn't have a gold mine. He also had to deal with the elements as he chased his dream to run his own thriving gold mining company. That is why it may become problematic to lose certain members of his team. Parker soon found that he may have to deal with such a dilemma in the years to come. This reminds us of the time Parker had to head to the Indian River and try to make some headway by getting 2 plants up and going. This is a critical move for the year, right? I'm going to go over to Fairbanks, so I'm not going to be here. Do you feel comfortable about where you're at? He asked. Parker had concluded some plans concerning a mining claim of interest that he found there. However, before he could do that, he decided to meet with his foreman Mitch Blaschke at the gold mining site so that he could make sure the wash plant and everything else needed for their work was in order. To his relief, Mitch let Parker know that everything was running fine and he had nothing to worry about. After all, their 2 wash plants were working well, and nothing seemed to be able to change that in the near future. Big Red's doing a good job down there, but we're falling behind on getting to the square footage we need to without 2 plants going. When you get back, hopefully, we've got the wash plant pad done, and we're sitting there with 2 plants going. However, Mitch would find that he did have some things to worry about. Funnily enough, it was almost as if the machines were waiting for Parker to leave, because as soon as he left, Mitch discovered that one of the machines had suddenly experienced a breakdown. Perfect timing. You can probably imagine all the thoughts that were running through Mitch's head at that point in time. How much will it cost to fix this? How much time would it take? Will this affect Parker's targets for the season? What is he going to do about this machine failure? We're sure Mitch wished that he hadn't promised Parker that everything would be fine in his absence, right before he went on that trip to seal the deal at the Indian River in Fairbanks, Alaska. How was Mitch going to sort things out now? His job there was to oversee the activities of the other miners on the mine. He was the one to make sure that they were working morning and night to find all the gold that would help them reach their target for the season. You know, we're approaching the middle of summer. Pretty soon here, the days are going to start getting shorter. Each day is just clicking by faster and faster. We need to have Lucifer on that new wash plant pad. He was also the one who had to make sure that the wash plants were working at their optimum capacities. As such, it should come as no surprise that he was left in a state of confusion and perhaps disappointment when he realized that his wash plant would not be of any use while Parker was gone. It almost felt like a betrayal. As if that wasn't bad enough, the super stacker, one of the most essential machines in the unit, also experienced a failure even before they had the chance to do anything on the mines. What is all this? The 2 wash plants, named Lucifer and Big Red, were supposed to work hand in hand with one another to sluice gold while Parker was gone. That was the only way they could meet their weekly targets. Now this all seemed like a dream because they couldn't even get the machines to start. Mitch was going to have to come up with solutions if he was going to get these machines to start working again. That's the only way they could even dream of meeting their weekly targets. The plan was fair enough, too. Here we go. My first scoop of the 2022 season in Lucifer. Game's on. If they could just move Lucifer to a large 30 feet high pad, they could assemble the super stacker and connect both so that it could feed the pay dirt into Lucifer's large frame. This would allow Lucifer to wash the pay dirt, which in turn would result in the production of those clean nuggets of gold we all love. The team had actually gone as far as setting up the 30 feet high pad before performing certain tests. The con convinced them that they could start work on the super stacker as well. They even managed to move Lucifer to the large pad. Now they hoped that they could use the 12T super stacker to feed the pay dirt into the waiting wash plant. To be honest, Initially, it appeared as though the super stacker was working fine as well. The team couldn't help but feel amazed as they saw the massive structure get to work on the mines. However, as the team started maneuvering the machine and began to lower it, everything came to a head. So normally we go 4 days between cleanups. This has only been 2 days here, and you see the gold already piling up in all the riffles, so time to do a cleanup. This is a good problem to have. You could see the shock on everybody's faces as the machine came to an abrupt halt. It experienced a sudden crash. What could have gone wrong? Soon, Alec Kelly, one of the mechanics on the crew, ran over to the machine to see what could have caused this sudden crash. After running around the massive machine, he was shocked to discover that there was an oil leak. As much as they'd have loved this to be superficial, they knew the moment they learned that this could be a grave problem, one that could be massively detrimental to the team's aspirations. Perhaps this was mostly due to the fact that the super stacker would take some time to fix. As a result, rather than feeding pay dirt to Lucifer, the team would now have to spend precious time fixing the machine instead of searching for the gold that they all came out there to find. Disappointed, Alec could only state that he just realized that the super stacker had blown the plug right out of the cylinder. In the end, this is ultimately what caused the potentially fatal leak in the machine. Hopefully, you can just pound out those 700 ounces from the strip and get Big Red up to Mud Mountain. It's a real priority. That's my priority. Best ground we can find. Apparently, this plug is important because it keeps the hydraulic oil in place by regulating the lifting cylinder. Without this plug, this could be a serious problem. To solve this massive issue, the team knew they must put an end to all this leaking. Eager to find a quick fix to the pressing problem, Alec decided that it may be best to move the super stacker. But this revealed itself to be the wrong idea because the top of the plug that was sealing the cylinder fell away. Somehow, this made what may have been a manageable problem even worse. This created an even bigger leak, one even more fatal to the machine's function. Mitch had it all at this point, and it wasn't even funny. Before he knew what was happening, Mitch had to jump into action, as the team couldn't afford to spend too much time fixing the machine. As they searched for answers, they soon found that the only thing left of the plug was its thread, still hooked onto the cylinder. Eager to find a solution before Parker got back, or before the week was over, Mitch drove to the scene of the machine's failure. The biggest thing that we run into is just having enough time in the day. We're always trying to get every minute, every hour we can. Slow time, because that's how you get good cleanup. That's how you have a lot of gold at the end of the season. What's even worse was that he had actually just realized how bad the damage was. Alec had to tell him that they may have been in over their heads with this one. The damage was so much that Alec believed they might not be getting any gold anytime soon, not when the machine was down and out. Disappointed yet resolute, Mitch decided to analyze the super stacker himself. Maybe he could come up with a better way to fix the machine. After realizing the damage with the old plug, Mitch concluded that the best course of action was to get a new plug that had the potential of bringing their machine back to life. Unfortunately, they had a little problem. There were no plug shops or even hardware stores in the area. What were they going to do now? To make matters worse, Mitch soon realized that he even had one of these plugs sitting at home, doing nothing in his garage. What a state of affairs. How could something as little as a plug stop them from achieving their weekly target? How would they solve this? Well, in times like these when Parker wasn't around to offer his leadership, Mitch had always found a way to come through for the team. Hopefully, this incident wouldn't lead to anything different. As they couldn't take the risk of going into town because they weren't sure they would find a plug there, Mitch and the rest of the team had to come together and find a way to replace their problematic plug. How were they going to find a new plug then? The last thing they wanted was to have anything go wrong, so they were just going to be nice and gentle with the machine and get it into place. After some brainstorming, Mitch soon realized that the solution may be right there. He decided they might have some luck searching for solutions in some of the old rock trucks they had lying around. Excited, Mitch and Alex searched all the old trucks to see if they could find a plug. But what was up with these trucks and these plugs? Though the plug they found wasn't too big, it would eventually end up being too small. It was as though the broken-down trucks were mocking them for having their problems. Volvo, without a doubt, makes the best truck, but the loaders for us have been a big part of our operation, and the loaders have to be running. How long would this search take? And how much time would they spend committing to this instead of hitting their weekly targets? It is a testament to the drive and determination of these men because they didn't let up with their search despite their frustrations. They kept looking for the answers in other machines that had some plugs in their quiver. You have a problem with Lucifer, so you have a feed direction problem or chute that's blocked off down in the distributor or something's going on. Soon, Mitch came across a drilling machine that possibly could have the plugs that they needed for the super stacker. They came to a machine that had the potential to bring their search for this plug to an end. Although they initially didn't see any plug that might fit their super stacker, they eventually saw one that could bring their search to an end. Soon, they extracted this plug from a machine before excitedly running over to the super stacker that was still standing there, inactive. Here's a gram per 3 yards though.